going on, Minnesota Viking fans? Welcome to the Purple People Podcast. I am Kyle Smith. This is episode 566. We are going to start off on a somber note today. This one is in memory of Khyree Jackson. We'll go into the details of what happened 4 days ago. Kyle West is here. How are you, sir?
Hey, I am doing pretty good. Like you said, that's a real sad topic that we have to discuss here in a little bit. I always hate when we got to cover bad news, especially when it's this kind of heavy, depressing subject to talk about. But we do have some other fun Vikings-related pieces and discussion that we'll get to in a little bit. We're going to talk about some Justin Jefferson, some Alexander Madison, maybe a little bit of Hard Knocks. I know I've watched both episodes last night with the New York Football Giants. I love that show.
I have never watched it.
Adam, I'm shocked to hear that, but I'm right there with you. Kyle, I think I'm going to change that, and I'm going to make sure that I tune in because I am very interested in what is the live-action dumpster fire that is the New York Giants.
Now, say at Hard Knocks and people got voted off the team, maybe I'll watch.
That Survivor style. That'd be awesome.
I mean, in the early days of the show, when they were doing like more in depth during like training camp and stuff, like it legit, like you seen players get cut in almost real time. They're not that brutal anymore. They don't film as much as what they used to, but go back to the early seasons and you can see players getting their dreams just absolutely crushed. And they're like, nope, you're getting cut on this team. Take your shit. Bye.
What sucks is I only remember one clip from all of Hard Knocks, and it was that poor guy going to the Jets facility, and his code didn't work anymore, and he hadn't found out that he'd been cut yet. And that's how he found out.
Yeah.
Oh, it's brutal. Yeah, obviously, Adam, I halfway introduced you in here. I hope you're doing good. I'm glad the whole crew is here. We'll just get right into it. I'm not going to pull up stats. I'm not going to pull up anything. Obviously, we will talk about how the team will be affected because it does affect the team in a professional way. But the sad news, and I just put it on my Instagram. I was like, man, this team is just cursed, dude. It feels like there's always something going on. And obviously, it stirs up emotions from the Jeff Gladney loss that wasn't that far removed from this. But rookie third-round cornerback Khyree Jackson passed away 4 days ago. He and two others, two of his friends. When I got the news initially, I was praying and hoping that it was not true. And then on top of that, I was praying that it wasn't his fault. Not that that would bring him back or his friends, but hopefully it wasn't a terrible decision. And what it turns out is he and two of his friends were in the car. Training camp hasn't started yet. Probably out having a good time, and they were struck by a drunk driver. And for all intents and purposes, I'm not advocating for this. I did check before the show because my curiosity got the best of me. There are photos of the car, and it's brutal. Whoever was doing this, it looks like something out of a video game. It's that bad. And
I didn't know there were photos. I don't need to see.
There's no photo. It's nothing crazy. Like, I'm not out here saying, hey, go to Face of Death. You can see his autopsy report. I would never do that. It's just the vehicle, but it does sober you up really quick and show you how quick life can be over. And
it's so sad. And it's like you even hate to even talk about it on like how will this affect the Vikings? Because you're talking about a young man who had everything in front of him, who lost his life in a very tragic way. In a preventable way, like Jonathan said here in the chat, please do not drink and drive. And again, we want to reiterate that he was not, Khyree Jackson was not drinking and driving. He was struck by a lady. I believe she passed, they were going this way. She passed the center line and hit the car, I think is what I read. Just a terrible, sad, depressing story.
And this kid had a ton of potential. He was a big corner. And I had been reading about how he had been working a little bit with Jordan Addison. And Addison was saying that this kid is playing real well. He was excited to see what he could do. And this is kind of crushing for a cornerback unit that, although they have a lot of youth, the potential of those youth is not, I believe, up to where Khyree Jackson was at when he was going to be joining training camp and starting to learn from some of these guys.
And by all accounts, he seemed like a really super nice young man too.
The way his teammates and anybody that knew him were talking about him on social
all
media,
positive.
amazing.
Yeah. I believe there was the photo that he just posted on Instagram. I think he was standing with a couple exotic birds. I don't know if they were parrots or what they were, but like that gives you a little glimpse into his personality. It's sad because I don't really know much about him yet, because he never really got the opportunity to play for the Vikings. So we as fans, I don't feel like we were really fully introduced to Khyree Jackson. I wish I knew more about him on a personal level because he seemed like an interesting person and player.
Yeah, I haven't looked too much into him. I mean, I usually wait until like training camp and the preseason to really start looking at these new players and
Right.
evaluating them and getting to know them a little bit. So I'm sad I didn't get to know a little bit more about him, but I do know that he left a great impression on anyone that met him. So, I mean, it's not like people will forget him. He will be remembered, and he will be remembered fondly.
Yeah, as a fan of the team, and we try to keep it as classy as we can here. I know Adam jokes and does a movie callback every time we get off the show, but we do want to keep it classy here. If you are on the team, we are a fan of you because we support the team, and we genuinely mean to his family and his friends, we are so sorry for you. He's so young. That's the first thing that struck me was
how old was he?
I want to say 24, right?
Yes, I believe so. It's wild.
That's so. I mean, you got your whole life in front of you.
Yeah, you're just a kid. I think
and
about where I was.
He's a 6'4" corner. There's not many of them in the NFL that are able to work pretty well.
It sucks because the only thing competitively that I had heard about him, obviously played at a big school. Oregon's a big school, but in the division, the Bears drafted rookie receiver Roma Dunze, and he was in the national title game with Washington, and he's a great receiver. And first thing I heard about Khyree Jackson's offseason was he's like, go check the tape. He's like, that dude didn't do anything against me. And that's what I want to hear. I want to hear that Xavier Rhodes attitude from my corner. And when you're that big, I mean, you got to be confident. I don't know how his feet and how his speed were, but if he's telling me he's locking this dude up, I was all aboard. Like, he's going to make the team, obviously, with where he was drafted, but I'm ready to see him break into a starting role somewhere and see where he fits in. But, yeah, just our condolences to their whole family, all three of the young men in the car. But Jonathan put it up. Someone was changing lanes at a high rate of speed. Khyree was in the passenger seat, so he wasn't even driving. And it happened around 3:15 in the morning, which you can't regulate. These are grown men at this point, even though they're young men. I hate to say, well, if you weren't out that late, but you can't regulate what people do. It's time to kind of be normal before the season and the grind starts. So he was doing nothing wrong. That's the saddest part about all of this.
Right.
All we can do is say sorry, and we hope that their family can find closure. And I hope they do a nice memoriam for him this season and gives the team a little extra juice.
I would like to see the Vikings. Maybe they can put his initials as a decal on their helmets, for the team to wear, or a number or something like that for him. I think that would be a good gesture by the team. It's hard to talk about. Like, I hate talking about stories like this. You know that?
It's sad when the legends of the team pass away because life is finite. But to be 24 years old is absurd. And
like
this
you
just
said,
harkens back the Jeff Gladney stuff. Now I'm sad about that again because he just lost his life not too long ago, and it's like, why does that keep happening?
Like you said, Smith, I feel the same way. I'm sure Adam does too. You look back at where I was at 24 and how young of an age that really is, and like how much more life you have in front of you and growing and whatnot. And it's tragic.
When I was his age, I was still, I will always be an alcoholic even though I'm over 10 years sober now. But back then I was doing stuff. I would black out and I wouldn't even know what I was doing. I drove on several occasions. I'm glad I never hurt anybody. Yeah. So stuff like this is even a bigger wake-up call for me to realize that, hey, I am changing my life to do good things. And I know that looking at a tragedy and trying to equate it to my life is very selfish. But I think that lessons can be learned even if it isn't something that directly affects you.
everyone on the team too immediately that morning, 4 days ago, they put it out, and it was chilling because I thought it was a parody at first. I was like, this isn't funny because you never know with Twitter these days. People will just do whatever just to get clicks for a random follow, but yeah, it quickly came out from his agent that it was confirmed. And yeah, again, we just send all of our love and our prayers and our condolences to each of the family members. And if you're a Viking fan, this hurts. And on the football side, and I don't mean this in not a classy way at all, but I said, threw my hands up. I was like, why this always happens to our team, to a player that I was genuinely excited about. And it's not the fact, well, we don't have a corner now. I'm not saying life is more than football.
I know what you mean. You hate to you hate to even bring it up because it is so much bigger than,
of course,
the football side of things.
But I'm sad
I was
excited, play, man. This is what these young men are here for.
I was excited to see him get an opportunity to play for the Vikings because he had the measurables to be a good player on that defense.
It's sad that he never really got to realize his dream of playing in the NFL.
Yeah, that too, man.
In a game. I would have liked for him to be able to accomplish that.
Yeah, I was on Fox Sports looking at this stuff earlier, and there's a great picture of J.J. McCarthy giving him a hug with his arm around his shoulder. So I'm going to end it on that before I get super duper sad and try to turn the show around. But
well, we can talk on a little bit brighter note. I believe Netflix's Receiver came out today.
It did. I started to watch it, and then I took a nap.
It came out today. I haven't started it yet, but I know what I'm doing when we are done with the podcast.
I gotta give a critique off the bat. Randy Moss, I love you, but I wish that they didn't read off of cue cards like they're on Saturday Night Live. And it's just so damn cheesy.
What's the setup here? What was he doing?
Okay, so Peyton Manning starts it out, and he's like, they say the hardest position in football is quarterback, but we don't talk about the guys. That's when you throw a pass, that's only half of it. And then he's like, hold on, Peyton. Let me take this over. I've got this. And he talks like that, and it's like.
So it feels kind of scripted?
It's the most over-scripted thing I've ever heard.
I hate that.
Damn it, man. But it's cool to have an ambassador like that because I think we all agree Jerry Rice is probably number one, the GOAT. And then you have like an argument there for 2 and 3, whatever. But when I think about like who would I represent the brand, I think Randy Moss is right on brand, and like he was that dude. And the cool part about it is with this one, even though technically he's not a receiver, you have 5 guys they followed and one's tight end, which is awesome.
George Kittle? Is it George Kittle? You got to follow George Kittle.
He's got so much fun.
Dude, he's got the personality. Like Adam, he's going to be in the WWE when he retires.
Oh, yeah, he's already participated in a couple different events in WWE, and he's so big personality.
Yeah.
He's so much fun. And he made even the short 10 minutes I watched while I was taking a nap, earlier. It's like, hey, I don't come in here and I'm not like a ball of nerves. He goes, some guys get really nervous before games. He goes, you see how loose I am? You play better when you're loose. I have fun, and I want everyone on the team to feel that. Dude, that kind of energy it spreads like wildfire. I love that for the 49ers. They did a cool intro too. They said, hey, we followed some of the best pass catchers in the league. Devontae Adams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Justin Jefferson, and then a pair of 49ers. So not only you have George Kittle, but you got Deebo Samuel too, which I thought was pretty cool to have 2 teammates, even though they're not technically the same position. And Kittle will tell you that straight up in there. He's like, listen, I do everything. He's like, I have the most unique position in football. And when you hear a guy describe what he does like that, you're like, man, I never thought of it that particular way. I'm stoked for this. And
how many people do you think, because it's on Netflix, huge platform, how many people do you think will like watch this show or watch the quarterback show that have never watched a professional football game, but still find this stuff interesting? There has to be a segment of the audience out there.
Well, the NFL missed out in a big way when Travis Kelce turned it down. They had to turn to George Kittle. If Kelce would have been on it, this thing would have been watched massively.
You literally stole my thunder out of here, Adam. I said it's going to be 80% of the Taylor Swift fans.
Yeah.
They don't watch football, but they're like, "Oh my God, Taylor's boyfriend plays. I wonder what this is." Like, it's going to open the balls.
It's good for the brand.
Ultimately, it's a documentary and it's a TV show because there's multiple episodes. So
Right.
if you just want to watch something and you're one of the content absorbers like we are, like I consume YouTube every day like it's a meal. So of course I'm going to watch it, but I
I
thought it was
need
cool.
the NFL is so smart because I am at that point in the off season where I need my football injection. I need
Yes.
that shit, and
Yes.
we're getting Hard Knocks the off season with the New York Football Giants, and we're getting this receiver show. It's like let me consume. I need to consume this because I need my football fix right now, folks.
Do you guys consider yourselves to be hardcore football fans?
Yeah.
I consider myself to be a hardcore Vikings fan. I do consider myself to be a knowledgeable NFL fan.
Okay,
I'm not going to say hardcore.
How do you feel about casual fans joining based on non-football play?
Okay. I'm going to say this, Kyle. I think you feel the same. It's much like what you like to eat versus what I like to eat. It doesn't affect me whatsoever, so I couldn't care less. But when you join in on a conversation, which is the fun of what we all do on this show, if you say something crazy, you deserve criticism, and you're going to get it in the comments. But by all means, I didn't join this Vikings team. I'm a bandwagon Viking fan because I jumped in hardcore because of Brett Favre and Adrian Peterson. So, all the people
It's
who've been
like,
following.
you like a TV show and you watch it, you pick apart the plot lines, you're getting other characters, and you sit down and try to talk with someone about it, and they are just casual people watching and enjoying the show.
Sure.
They are fans of the show too.
Okay,
not
so
the level you are, but it's still there.
One of my first tattoos is a Game of Thrones tattoo. I love Game of Thrones. I've read the books. I'm reading through the books again. I've seen the show multiple times. I'll consume all of that the same way I will consume football. It does not bother me in the slightest when someone says, I've never read the books, but I've seen the show and I really like it. I'm like, great. That's good. And that's the same thing applies for like the NFL and football. If there is a kid out there who is like, I have never seen football before, but Justin Jefferson does the gritty in Fortnite, and I think that's cool, and I'm going to tune into a Minnesota Vikings game, I love that because that is good and healthy for the sport, and we need that to grow. And I've never been one of these people who were like, I'm more of a fan than you are because I've been watching for X amount of years.
Casuals.
No, we need them because the filthy casuals that's what keeps all this going.
See, for football, I love this. For mixed martial arts, I will argue with a brick wall. Everybody there. MMA is just a different kind of science. But for football, yes. Actually, I want to point this comment out too. Charlotte says her husband John is more hardcore about the Vikings than she is. I like our team, but I could do without just as easily. I respect you even more now because you're always here on this show. Maybe you just like the show, which is awesome for us. But to say that and to be like, I'm indifferent about it, but I like it. I don't need it. But you're here every week. I respect it. Thank you for that. We appreciate both of you.
So I totally get the distinction. It's an interesting distinction too, because there are definitely hardcore football fans who are like, I know the league forwards and backwards and every player, and let me tell you, the third string corner for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm not that kind of fan. Like, I'm a hardcore Minnesota Vikings fan. That is an interesting, good distinction that you guys made there. Because do you guys get like when the Vikings shit the bed on Sunday, you get pissed off and then you don't watch football for the rest of the day, maybe even Monday Night Football because you're like, bah, I'm mad at the team and now I'm mad at football because I do that.
I have learned to recover so much faster over the last few years. Kirk Cousins is really the reason why I've learned to temper myself. I knew exactly what it was by year 2, exactly what I was getting. So when I anticipated that and I realized, like, especially going into this year, so we had the cool, like, overachieving year 2 years ago when we won too many games and then, shit the bed against the Giants in the playoffs. We shouldn't have won that many games. Should have beat the Giants. Woulda, coulda, shoulda, whatever. The season ends abruptly. The Cinderella story comes to an end. Last year, the season's over when Kirk's Achilles tears, which they didn't start off hot anyways, but I digress. what I've told myself this year, which I kind of knew in the back of my mind forever since Favre's 2010 year and forward, outside of 2017, this team doesn't really have a shot to win the Super Bowl. There have been a couple of glimpses where you're like, okay, they can get it. They're going to the playoffs. Can they go on a little run? Like 2019, I can't believe they beat the Saints in New Orleans. That's one of the coolest wins I've ever seen. Should they have won that game? Probably not. Did the 49ers beat them pretty handily the next week? Yeah, you could tell they were the better team. But by and large, now where I'm at 36 years old, following this team for 15 years, I can pretty much tell you, like, especially it's so obvious now, this team's not winning the Super Bowl this year. So I just kind of like, okay, look, you want them to win every game, but it's not going to happen, and I curve it down. Now, because I like the NFL as a league a little more, I'll find interesting matchups and try to see. I guess for me, it's just I'm trying to predict if I'm right or not, and I watch a game to be like, I think Buffalo is going to beat Miami today. Let me watch.
Okay, here's a fun question for you guys. It ties into Charlotte's comment here up on the screen. What is the most pissed off, the angriest you've ever been at a Vikings game? Yes. Like, what is that moment where you're just like,
all of them.
All of it.
Yes, all of them.
See, anger isn't my main go-to. When something happens, I'll just bow my head and I'll shake my head. Anger isn't one that goes to me.
My story for this one is the absolute roller coaster of being a Minnesota Vikings fan.
Can I guess before you say the game?
Yeah.
Is it that one against the Ravens with Cordero Patterson at that last 2 minutes where they just should have won, almost won, goes back, and it was in the snow? Is that the one?
No, it's the Minneapolis Miracle. I was so pissed off. So pissed off before that play. Like, there we go. Here goes another good season. This team is just pissing it down the drain. And then that moment when Diggs caught that pass and took it in for a touchdown, it was like I
lost my voice.
I will get excited during a game, but it is rare that I will actually like stand up off the couch or the sofa and yell at the TV set. That the Minneapolis Miracle was my like stand up, holy shit, yell at the TV set moment. So that is what it's like to be a Vikings fan. The most pissed off you've ever been and the happiest you've been within the span of 5 minutes.
I think I was more irrationally happy when the Vikings beat the 49ers with Favre, the pass to the end zone, the back of the end zone.
Favre to Lewis?
Yeah, I was at my sister's. I was watching the game on my computer, and I jumped up out of my sister's bed, and I was just yelling and hooting.
That was an interesting moment because Favre wasn't really – he was playing okay, but he wasn't playing like Brett Favre until that moment. That was your first time as a Vikings fan where you're like, we got beat by this for all that length of time when he was a Green Bay Packer.
It happened in real time.
We got to experience Favre magic on our side, and that was wild. That was fun.
I think for me, the first season when obviously when Favre beat Green Bay, that was fun. I remember that game pretty vividly. But beating the absolute dog shit out of the Cowboys in the divisional round, nothing made me happy. They scored 3 points. I think they sacked Tony Romo 6 or 7 times. It was so funny. And then I forget which. I was just going to say another game. Beating it's a Packers win always. The Christian Ponder year where Adrian Peterson was like 9 yards away. I remember watching that when I was overseas, and I couldn't believe that's the best game Christian Ponder's ever played in his life. 3 touchdowns, no picks, and obviously Adrian Peterson ran for like 200 yards. And then it was like, hey, winning, you get in. I think I was the most happy then. Obviously, I love the 2019 win in this against the Saints. There's been a couple of random regular season games where they've been pretty good. Like a couple of years ago, terrible season, COVID year. Dalvin Cook had like 4 rushing touchdowns against Green Bay.
Was that the game?
What is this?
Charlotte, is that the game against the Raiders that you were talking about? The one where they scored like 3 points? Because if there was ever a game that you were going to turn off,
they won that game.
No, because Minnesota won that one.
Yeah, they won 3.
They did win that one. That's right.
See, I don't mind games if Minnesota loses and it's close and it's competitive and it's fun. That's fine. Yeah. Minnesota gets blown up by 30? No thanks.
I'd rather watch that. Like, I would rather see – I haven't watched it ever since. I'd rather watch the 2017 NFC Championship than watch wide left from Blair Walsh. That makes me so angry. And like last year alone, the first 2 games, they were -7 in the turnover differential. That's when I get pissed. When they just like randomly fumble and then they fumble again, I literally go, you have one job. You're the best in the world at it. What in the fuck are you doing?
I'm with Adam on that Blair Walsh moment when he missed that field goal, where I wasn't even mad. I was disappointed,
Right.
and I just sat. I remember just sitting there in stunned silence, like, yeah, of course that's how this is going to end.
But the fun thing about that, especially that year, when you're a rational fan and you get past that moment, because when you're angry at a game, it's like a fart. It lingers for a little bit and it leaves, right? And you have level-headedness to look at it, especially the next week. I watched the up-and-coming Seahawks get the brakes beat off of them by the MVP Cam Newton Panthers that year. The Vikings were doing nothing of the sort in the playoffs. If they had won that game that they should have won. Yeah, the sadness is just when I know that they're very good and they just don't play well for whatever reason.
Yeah.
No injuries, maybe the coaching and the game plan or the players just aren't focused. I remember watching in 2018 the Kirk year when he came over, and Josh Allen as a rookie made us look like we were a college football team. And I'm like, have you never seen a large dude run around mobile before?
Is that dribbling people?
It was embarrassing. I was embarrassed to be a fan. But then on the flip side, we have games that we have no business winning. Like last year, San Francisco's represented in the Super Bowl, but Kirk Cousins without Justin Jefferson beats them on Monday night in primetime. You're like, aren't you supposed to lose primetime games to good teams? What's happening right now? This team is just like, whatever you think is going to happen won't. And then, they're just chaos all the time.
It's the NFL is so weird, and that's why they keep adding games, and it dilutes it a little bit the more games we add onto it, because the season is so short compared to the NBA or Major League Baseball. And it's like anything can happen over it. And could you imagine if the NFL was a series, like if the playoffs were a series and you had to play multiple games? Like, it would not be – it would suck. Like, that's what makes football so much fun, is the fact that anything can happen. And the
absoluteness of it.
And every game has big meaning.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And I don't want to see a 20-game season, a 21-game season, 22-game season. I want the conference to matter. Like, winning your division should matter. You know what I mean?
You say that, and I'm with you, but I will watch every time they have a game on.
I know I will. We're all addicted.
But this is how you know we're getting older, is because we're trying to like stick to some kind of tradition that looks something like what we used to see.
Yeah.
And this is a great transition into something that we used to watch that we don't have anymore. I saw an interesting meme the other day. I think it was like from 2003.
In the old days,
how many?
Hold on, real quick.
Yeah.
In the old days, they used to say, "I read an interesting book," and in 2024, we say, "I've seen an interesting meme."
This is my attention span now, about as big as that melatonin I showed you earlier.
Sorry, continue.
No, it's fine. I think it was 2003 or somewhere in the early 2000s, the 2000s decade, and it was like these are the number of 1,200-yard rushers, and it was like 12 teams. And then last year it was just Christian McCaffrey.
Just Christian McCaffrey on the graphic. Yeah.
It's hilarious. Like, well, shit. Well, this is a great transition into the next topic, because I shared this tweet with the guys and I could not. I said, this is like unfathomably bad. Go to the Viking Age, and I'll put it up here because Adam Carlson writes for the Viking Age. You should check out his articles. We've said it many times. We'll beat it in the ground this year. Their format now is so easily absorbable, and you can help him have a great month if you just click on an article that he's written, or 5 or 10. But one of your colleagues wrote it because this tweet came out, and we're going to dog on him a little bit because this is terrible. Alexander Mattison, we tried the experiment of him as running back number 1 last year. And this stat from Warren Sharp, I can't even believe that it's true. Craziest stat you'll see today. Alexander Mattison had 9 rushes inside the 5-yard line last year. What were the stats and the results, you ask? -7 yards and 0 touchdowns. He's the first running back in at least 25 years to have more than 6 attempts inside the 5, but scores 0 touchdowns and actually lose at least 2 yards in total. Holy shit, that's bad.
I legitimately do not understand what happened with Alexander Madison. I mean, there's having an off year, and then there's having whatever Madison did for the Vikings.
Was it him? Was it the blocking? Was the play calling? What was it?
I just don't think he's a starting running back.
To be fair, when you watch a lot of those plays back to back, like that cut on that video, there were times that he was handed the ball, and before he could go left, right, and different, he was getting tackled. He was having defenders on him almost immediately. That is blocking. That is not a good blocking scheme. That is needing to upgrade on the offensive line. I do think his vision, not the greatest vision out there for a running back either.
Well, I think it speaks
Here's something kind of fun
good.
for you. How many 1,000-yard rushers do you think there were in the league last year?
3.
5?
Well, there were 12.
Okay.
Shit.
But how many 1,000-yard receivers do you think there were?
1,000-yard receivers.
1,000-yard receivers? That's got to be a bunch.
12.
17?
28.
Holy hell.
Yeah, that's the difference in the NFL today.
Oh, this transitions me to my next point, because I saw this. I've shifted away from Uncle Colin, and I am firmly on the Rich Eisen train. Much better upgrade in my YouTube consumption.
Good choice.
Brockman, the bald guy that's on there, he is the pessimist. He's the antagonist in the show, and I love him for that. But Rich did a top 10 running backs thing today. He was like, hey, these are the guys I think that will have the biggest impact. And he put Aaron Jones at 9, and I really appreciated that. And Brockman's like, I'm out on Aaron Jones. He's too old. And I went back and looked at his – if you just look at the stats, you would think that him and Alexander Madison are actually close from last year. But I will give you this nugget to be optimistic, because I've said it before, maybe 2 months ago on the show when he signed with the team. He had 600 some yards for the season, but he was out for a month. So he was out from November 19th to December 17th. He was out with an injury. When he came back, he played 5 games, including the playoffs. He had over 100 yards in every game. And against the Dallas Cowboys, he had 3 touchdowns.
I love it.
He technically he was the best running back the last 5 weeks until he was out, not named Christian McCaffrey. Can he maintain a whole season? That's going to be tough. But if the Vikings end up going with Cam Akers for one more year and they stick with Ty Chandler, I think that's a significant upgrade, and he does provide a lot of help in the passing game. Do I need him to be Derrick Henry? No. Do I need you to be Christian McCaffrey? No. I just need you to be better than Alexander Madison, and I think that's pretty doable. Remember what I said last year when we started? I said you just need 59 yards a game every game, and you'll get 1,000 yards. I think Aaron Jones can do that.
You broke it down so easily, and then we watched Madison be like, hey, I am going to do the exact opposite of that.
But see, that's the thing, Kyle. I'm not even mad about the yardage. How are you a running back and you don't score any rushing touchdowns in 17 games?
I like it so much better when a player who is shitty on the field is a douchebag off the field.
Right.
Because give me Brashad Breeland, where I can be like, hey, F this dude. He's terrible on the field. He's terrible off the field. Let's just rag on him and get him off the team. It sucks when Alexander Madison is a good guy, and I like him, and it's like, I
got to mention something while we're talking about running backs, because I got something that's bothering me.
Uh-oh.
Remember last week we were talking about how the Vikings were expected to sign Cam Akers if he can pass physical?
Sure.
Correct.
Yeah, okay, what happened to that?
I don't know.
I don't
know
know.
anything. I have not heard anything. I haven't heard that he was brought in for physical. I haven't heard that he was testing or anything. Do you know who that report came from?
Oh, God.
Who?
Charlie Walters. How does this guy keep putting out this information that leads nowhere and people just follow it? Everybody shares it.
Well, I'm guilty of that shit.
The internet. It's the internet.
Yep.
I don't know if I can even believe that the Vikings are interested in Cam Akers now based on that report.
sucks too because it's different with a quarterback because they don't generate that kind of push and that power that the running backs need. He's had injuries before. I don't need him to be running back one, but coming off an Achilles is a little worrisome for that position. But he looked fine last year. I think he should have started over Madison. I think we all agreed by the second game where he had a decent amount of carries. We're like, why the fuck isn't this guy starting? Like, what are we doing here? But I digress. I am all for familiarity and depth, and he will be the ultimate small piece of. He will be the bargain bin signing where I'd be like, hell yeah, he's not going to cost a lot. He's familiar with the team. He doesn't bring any drama. I'm all for it. But maybe he's not. Maybe that's not even an option because maybe it's not even true. So I got by the internet. Maybe
I do think running back is a position that the Vikings are going to need to invest in after this year. We've seen them go a little bit in free agency and pick up some pieces and parts. And I know that it's not a position that teams are spending a first-round pick on anymore. But, maybe it's time for them to look into spending a second-round pick on bringing in a young impact player at that position.
Oh, here you go, Adam. This is your counterpart, Adam Patrick, wrote an article about this yesterday. So, transaction is still pending a physical, according to Darren Wolfson, who I trust way more. And this is in bold. That listing was sent to me via social media and a direct message. And then I followed up with somebody close to Cam, and I will read verbatim what this person told me. That is correct. So, we are still awaiting word on the physical. That's a big chunk of this. He's already recovered pretty nicely from one Achilles tear, but now we're talking about a second. So that's an extensive physical. But yes, all signs point to Akers re-signing with Minnesota. There we go.
Okay, so it still is maybe happening?
As long as he passes the physical. Which I understand. Like I said.
Is there a rush to bring him back? Is there 31 other teams out there right now that
you want to get him into camp, though, to get him in there for meetings and rehab and everything. It was working with the trainers and whatnot. So yeah, I think they'd like to get him in there.
So yeah, that's running back news.
Do you think we will ever see? Do you think we'll ever see, maybe not even the league, but a team just fully embrace the run game, like old school NFL ground and pound? Eventually there will be a coach out there who's going to look at all the other defenses in the NFL and go, they're built to stop the pass, and they all got undersized linebackers, and none of them are really good at stopping the run, and we're just going to put together a two-headed monster out there at running back, and we're gonna commit to 1985 football and just run the ball, and no one's going to stop.
The Cleveland Browns may need to do that.
I was about to say that sounds like a Pittsburgh Steelers team.
Yeah,
it really does.
Jim Harbaugh,
AFC North all
Jim
over
Harbaugh.
That.
I mean, shit, it might. He's got a good quarterback, and hopefully, I don't know what they might have to do that this year. I don't know who the hell Justin Herbert's going to throw to.
The 49ers are kind of close, but
yeah,
that's a good point. The Eagles come to mind, but these teams we're talking about, the Chargers, the 49ers, the Eagles, they have competent, I would say, good quarterbacks.
The Chargers used to have receivers, they don't anymore.
They don't have anybody now. I can't name one Chargers receiver, and the part of it is, and I hate to do this.
I respect Harbaugh for being like, we're going into rebuild mode year one. Like, we're not beating around the bush. We are rebuilding.
You know why I love Jim Harbaugh? Because he just authentically is himself, and he's like, hey, I don't know if you followed my track record. He doesn't have to say this, but like, hey, when I touch football things, good things happen. So just let me put my stamp on it. The first thing he does, everybody's like, take a receiver. He's like, I'm going to take the 7-foot offensive lineman and I'm going to build a fucking wall around this quarterback that I have. So
that's how you win. You invest in the trenches early.
Now, I don't think because of the division he's in now that he's going to have that +7 differential that he had when he came from Stanford to San Francisco. I think the Chargers will be closer to 10 rather than 13 wins. But I do think after another year, we don't know when Andy Reid's going to retire, but when Kelsey goes away, and then maybe the Chiefs come a little closer to reality, that division's going to be fun because Jim Harbaugh is a damn good. He'll find a way to win, and then maybe that every year will just be them splitting and be like, okay, Chiefs are going to go to the playoffs, but are the Chargers going to win the AFC West this year? Is that going to happen?
And Andy Reid is going to retire, and the glass is going to shatter, and Bill Belichick is going to be like, I am coming out of retirement to coach for the Kansas City Chiefs.
All I know is that when Andy Reid retires, he needs to sign up like Wendy's or something and be a spokesman. Because I need that.
Nuggies.
I love Andy Reid. He would be so much fun to hang out with.
You know, it'd be great. I'm piggybacking off of what you said, Kyle. Instead of that, we mentioned the other day, and it's been on a bunch of shows recently. How about we do the first ever dual head coach signing? I don't think Nick Saban and Bill Belichick are doing anything. Give them a 2-year deal and let them come in and run a team. Let them run the
Chiefs. The Vikes head co-defensive coordinators.
Yes. Yes. Let them come in for 2 years and run the Chiefs. I bet you they'd win another Super Bowl.
No, but that meme is brilliant, where it's like send Bill Belichick to a terrible high school football program and let him run it, let him teach the staff how to run it. And I'd watch that.
I'd watch Phillip Rivers just because of his country ass accent. He's coaching high school football, and I would love to watch that team. I bet you they beat the shit out of everybody.
Yeah. How cool would that be?
Dude, that'd be so much fun.
Be in high school and your coach is Phillip Rivers.
I want to interview Phillip Rivers where they just ask him, name all your kids in chronological order of their age.
With birthdays.
Oh, it's so funny. So let's talk about receiver for a minute because Justin Jefferson is going to be the highlight. We knew he was going to get paid. They talked about that a little bit on Rich Eisen yesterday. He had a nice interview with Rich. I don't think there was much said. There wasn't a lot of substance in that interview.
I just watched it before we started recording. For as much personality as JJ has on the field, when he talks, he's a lot quieter than what you would think. I kind of dig it.
I like that
he's that Randy Moss personality, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that he mentions his family a lot. He seems like a grateful and humble kid. I think he walked the line as best you could for saying, hey, I know my worth. I was doubted. Obviously, it showed in the draft. I was on a super team in college. You guys wanted this guy over me. It's fine. He's like, look at me now. I know what and I love that he brought up, hey, I got hurt. First time ever in my career. I got hurt last year. It sucked. You get to see that in the show. He's like, but I still came back and got 1,000 yards. I like that because it looks to me like he still wants to go out and play hard. And I think that's the driving theme. If you can get past some of the redundancies, he does repeat himself a little bit, but he definitely says like, hey, when I get on the field, you get every bit of everything I have. And that makes me so happy.
Did you catch at the beginning of the interview where he told Rich, he's like, no, you're interviewing Justin right now. Like you're talking to Justin. He's like, Jets is the guy that you see on the field. And Jets comes out about 2 hours before the game. And that's his personality. That's the gritty. That's all the over the topness. That's all of that. And it's actually kind of healthy that he's able to separate it because, boy, you look at someone like Antonio Brown who couldn't separate the on-field and off-field personality, and it becomes just a mess everywhere. I like the fact that he can flip that switch and turn it on and have that ego to be the best damn player on the field. And then when it's off, he can be like, I'm going to hang out with my family. And I'm actually kind of quiet and reserved a little bit. Humble is the word that I'm looking for. I like that out of Justin Jefferson. Yeah.
Kirk was also asked in that interview. I love that Rich will be the corny white guy interviewer, but he does it in a fun way. He just asked him straight up. He's like, what do you feel about Kirk leaving? Like, did you know? And he was asked. He said, were you surprised that Cousins left? And I was surprised by Justin Jefferson's answer. It's here, and I'll read it to you. He says yes and no. I always knew Kirk was going to do whatever he needs to do for him business wise, and this is the thing that threw me off. I just knew that everything wasn't the way he wanted it to be in Minnesota.
Yeah,
I didn't know what he meant by
What
that,
does
but
he
then he
mean?
goes, especially with having to pay me and some other guys. So it came down to money, what that points to. I feel like he just wanted a new start, a new opportunity, so he got that with Atlanta and a clean slate. I'm not mad at him at all for that.
Well, the rumor going around is that Kirk Cousins did not want a high potential young quarterback pushing him on the roster, and Minnesota was going to do that, and told him they were going to do that.
Well, I think
So
Kevin O'Connell would give him the benefit of the doubt. Be like, hey, man, this is the plan going forward. Kyle, I know what you're going to say. It's just the irony of that happening in a place, and then they didn't tell him that they were going.
yeah, it's like you could have stuck around in Minnesota where they were like, hey, we're gonna draft a young quarterback, but you're gonna start because our plan is that we legit want the young rookie quarterback to sit for a season or two, the duration of the contract that you're going to get. Instead, he goes to Atlanta where they don't tell him they're going to draft a rookie quarterback. And it's the NFL. Fans are fickle. Organizations are fickle. If shit goes off the rails, I don't care what they're paying Kirk. The cries are going to come from Michael Penix, and
Oh yeah,
that's gonna turn into a big narrative. It's gonna happen if he doesn't play the way they want him to.
He has just as much pressure in Atlanta as he did coming off
He has more
the
pressure.
Vikings going to the NFC Championship and like, hey, we're in a Super Bowl window. And the difference is when he came here, there wasn't that guy. They got rid of Case Keenum. Sam Bradford wasn't here. I don't think Teddy Bridgewater was still on the team either. So there was none of that. Now you go to Atlanta, you're like, hey, that's a shitty division. It looks like the Bucks are your only competition, and you probably beat them. I need you to go win the division immediately that you've never played in, and also, hey, you're getting older, and we kind of want to figure out if you can go to the Super Bowl. So you're going to need to win a couple playoff games too. By the way, your successor is waiting in the wings, and you got to practice every day against.
How many? Okay, this is what bugs me about Kirk. How many Tom Brady replacements did the New England Patriots draft? Because they're towards the end, they were drafting a hell of a lot of players that they thought were going to replace Tom Brady. And he had that Michael Jordan attitude where he was like, and I took it personally. And he never let any of those guys take his job. What's so hard? What was so hard about Kirk being like, yeah, draft the next guy. I'm going to be better than him. I'm going to beat him out in camp. I'm going to be the better player.
Well, especially to your point, Kyle, he's revolutionized, and I don't understand how every other quarterback hasn't done this. He gets guaranteed fucking money when he does contracts. Who gives a shit? You're going to get paid regardless. And I was going to say, I was thinking about this before I spoke last time, but Kirk Cousins for us, at least us personally, because we were fans of him, and I'm still a fan of him now, like I don't hate him, is he's got the ultimate athlete's curse, and it's coming out full time. He still believes he can play at a high level. I think he can too, as long as the injury doesn't.
I think he will.
I think he will too.
Yeah.
And it's that I want to chase and see if I can get close to a Super Bowl. I want to do that. But the ultimate foundation of everything is, are you going to pay me what I'm worth? Because my services will outweigh my drive of, well, I like this team and I like this location. Because
but you're talking about services, and I got to ask, like, how many hats will Atlanta want Kirk Cousins to wear? The starting quarterback hat, the locker room leader hat, the mentor hat. How many hats does he got to wear?
It's fair.
True. And I think on their end of it, Adam, to your point, is we're paying you a shitload of money. I need you to do a lot of things. And winning needs to be the number one. But, hey, we're paying you buku amount of money, and you're 36 years old when the season starts. So you better be good at all of this stuff. Like, I feel like that might be the pressure.
That's
interesting. Why those expectations are crazy.
It's interesting, though, because I don't feel like the Vikings are not asking Sam Darnold to, like, we need you to, like, mentor J.J. McCarthy. And right. I realize there's a difference between what Kirk Cousins has accomplished and what Sam Darnold has accomplished. They're two different quarterbacks, different stages of their career. But, like, how much are you really expected to mentor a younger quarterback as a veteran? Like, Sam Darnold's job is to prepare to be the starting quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings in 2024.
But this is a hat that Sam Darnold has worn before and has proven to excel at. And that's why Minnesota was so interested in going to get him.
Right.
Because they knew that he would be that guy that could hold down fort while helping these young guys get ready for the future.
Well, if I could say the obvious too, Kirk has been a starter for the last 8 or 9 years, and he hasn't had that option of, oh well, somebody might be coming for my job. That's all Sam Darnold has done. So he's been here before, like Adam said. It's funny too when you get guys that are actually closer together in like skill and like I think JJ McCarthy and Kirk Cousins are fucking worlds apart right now. 3 years from now, probably it might be the opposite. But right now, there are levels to the game and they are far apart. I think we can all agree Sam Darnold and JJ McCarthy are closer than Sam Darnold or than JJ McCarthy and Kirk Cousins. But I find it funny the guys that are closer together, which means this guy, Sam Darnold, is closer to getting his job taken by guy two. He'll be more of a mentor than Kirk was because they want to keep that distance. But these guys that are like,
it's fascinating, and you're right. It's fascinating,
Yes.
the difference in attitude. I haven't even thought of this really. But if Kirk was the starting quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings, there's no chance that JJ McCarthy was ever going to like jump him in the depth chart. I'm like, oh,
No.
Kirk, you had a stretch of 4 or 5 bad games. We're gonna bench you, McCarthy. It's your show to run. There is a possibility with Sam Darnold that like, hey, we're 5-6 games into the season. It hasn't gone the way we want it to. McCarthy, you're gonna start.
Yeah, and I think Sam knew that coming here, but there's an opportunity to shine. It's all about what you do with that opportunity. It's Baker Mayfield year for him as the
I want
ceiling.
to see him. I really want to see him do good.
I think he can. And a fun point, and this is another thing that happened today. Watching Rich Eisen, they always put the full interview up. They give you nuggets during the day, and at the end of the day, they upload the full segment. Albert Breer was on, and I had no idea why Rich would bring it up or whatever, but he's like, hey, what do you think about Sam Darnold and what he's going to do this year? And he said, if you go back to last year, he only had minimal playing time against the Baltimore Ravens because the Ravens blew out the 49ers. I vaguely remember that game being like, damn, if that's a Super Bowl preview, that sucks, you know? And he said, Albert Breer said, when I watched Sam in that game when he came in, you could say, he's like, I remember myself saying, he's processing faster. He's doing the things that you wanted to see him do, but he wasn't going to do in the dumpster fire that was Carolina and the even worse dumpster fire that was the Jets. So having a little bit of a reset is actually really nice for him. And I think that the Vikings are kind of like the San Francisco 49ers like diet 49ers. I don't think our team is roster constructed as well as them. I don't know if Kevin O'Connell's as good of a coach as Kyle Shanahan, but I think they're close. I think they are similar in some ways, especially how they can help an offense be great for a quarterback. So if the reporter is noticing this, and he knows more than I do about football easily, I'm like, okay, really the whole season now, and Adam, this goes right back to you because you've said this since I've met you. Really, the season rides on how good is the offensive line going to be?
Yeah,
Because if they over exceed like they did last year, sky's the limit, man. I don't see why not. Kevin O'Connell will make the offense absorbable and digestible for both of these guys. So, and it's not like you don't have an array of talent around you, starting in the backfield and then all the pass catchers. It really comes down this year to what is the offensive line going to do?
You do not have to worry about JJ McCarthy's ability to understand an offense coming from what he ran in college, because on Hard Knocks, where they were showing player interviews, McCarthy was one that was highlighted where the Giants were asking all the quarterbacks, hey, name your favorite play in college. And a lot of them were going to the whiteboard and, drawing it up with the X and O's, explaining whatever. Fucking JJ McCarthy started writing down word for word the huge NFL play call that none of us can even begin to dissect. He's writing all of that down on the board. And Brian Daboll was like, that's what you ran? Like that's what you were expected to run? And he goes, yeah, it was a Jim Harbaugh offense. That's what we were expected. That's what I was expected to know. I thought that was like, oh, that to me tells me you don't have to worry about him learning an NFL offense. He already understands the verbiage.
It's really the speed of the game he's got to get used to, and that's going to come with reps. But I
Right.
love that too. I heard something about him yesterday on one of the podcast I was listening to walking around the apartment, saying that his offensive line, they had everything like at their grasp for protection wise and like certain looks, but he had the authority to override. He truly was like the sheriff of the field. And they're like, no, he can mix all of this. It's up to him. But and that's one of the things I hated because I was a hater of his for so long. It was like, oh, you just got to drive the car around the block and it's on cruise control. It's like, yeah, but there's more context to that. And not seeing the positive of it because I didn't want to is, well, you were basically running an NFL offense on a national championship team. Yeah, the competition's a lot harder here, but at least I know like that's one part of the game. If you can't get correct, you're not going to succeed. So, that part of it, I'm like, oh, thank God he's not an idiot like up here. Now let's see if he can translate that physically, and then I'm excited for the preseason because we're going to see him play a lot.
Yeah, me too.
Now we've been talking about Darnold and McCarthy, but really having a new quarterback and a young quarterback means Minnesota may have to rely heavier on their run game. And now with Aaron Jones here, do you think Minnesota's going to be able to get enough traction in the run game to be able to make that enough of a threat to where these young and new quarterbacks are going to be able to thrive with these pass catchers that Minnesota has?
If they looked at last year at any way, shape, or form, they know they got to run the ball a little more. I just hope it's more of the committee style here. I don't think Aaron Jones, at where he's at age-wise, is the
now. When you say more, do you mean frequently or efficiently?
Efficiently.
Yeah, efficiently.
Efficiently. Yeah.
Well, I don't think the NFL is there anymore, and I think that shows. Like in 10 years ago, you wouldn't sign Aaron Jones because you look at the age, like he's almost 30. We can't take him. Okay. But based on the workload and the percentage, because the scales are not even anymore between pass and run game. You just got to be competent. I just need you to be in the generic aisle of running the football.
Well,
I don't need you to be anything special.
What was that stat that we were talking about with Madison? I mean, the expectation is when you're within the 5-yard line and we're going to run the football, you need to gain positive yardage and you need to score touchdowns. That's the expectations. It's like short yardage, goal line situations. You need to be able to run the football, and you need to be able to run it well enough on early downs to set up the play action. Right. That is where teams are succeeding.
And I'm curious if Minnesota's going to be able to do that.
I hope.
I can't answer that. I can't answer that, Adam. But they've at least put themselves in a better situation to succeed, I think.
So with Minnesota's coaching, is it going to come out and try to work with new schemes or maybe possibly new assignments, move from a blocking zone instead of a man block? Or do you think that big changes are going to come on the offensive line? Or do you think they're just going to keep trying to work with what they have, with the personnel they have, and see if they can get those players to take the next step?
That's the biggest question. I don't know what direction they're going to go in.
I think they're hoping to use the player and the personnel and the scheme that they've already installed, and hope that by upgrading on the running back position, that they're going to be able to execute what they want to run at a higher level.
Because this offseason, the Vikings made no improvements to their offensive line. Not a lick.
Worries me a little bit. That does worry me.
Yeah, that's the only thing. We're talking about this team, and we've had some good additions. I think a good draft. We're not the Dallas Cowboys where we just signed a linebacker and a special teamer. We're not running it back like that. But that is pushing all your chips in. I think the line is fine. I think we all agree maybe we would like a little bit.
It wasn't fine for the run, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I think we all agree we would probably like an upgrade at least one of the guard positions and center if we could have. But
center, I am looking at center more. But
Jonathan says it worries me a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we get all these discussions. What about what about McCarthy? What about Darnold? And it's like they can only be successful as the team allows them to be with play calls that can give them enough time to make a play. I mean, if Sam Darnold drops back and he doesn't have enough time to make 3 reads, and Justin Jefferson is covered, and Addison falls down on accident or something, Is that a lost play? Is that 8-yard sack right there? Is that what we're doing?
Hopefully he'll throw it out of bounds. That sucks because I'm thinking about it now, and the reality is sobering. Dude, that Detroit Lions defensive line, very good. That Chicago Bears defensive line is very good. And the Packers they're just good.
Yeah.
The Packers were one Jordan Love turning into Brett Favre throwing across his body play away from an NFC North NFC Championship matchup.
Yeah.
That's crazy to think about. But that's the division we play in now. And I firmly believe, even though I'm not going to give Caleb Williams his flowers yet, I firmly believe the Vikings are in fourth place until they're not. So they got a lot of ground to cover if they're going to catch up with these other teams. And now the offensive line is going to get me worried. And I can't believe I haven't thought about it sooner. It's like, oh, we got Darisaw and we got O'Neal. We're fine. It's like, yeah, but what about the three in the middle? What are we going to do about that?
I mean, Ed Ingram did look a lot better last year than he did the year before. So I'm hoping that progress continues.
And we like
and Dalton Reisner came in and played fairly well.
Yeah, we like that.
Garrett Bradbury is still a little bit of a work in progress.
He's fine. I think you could do worse, but I also think it wouldn't hurt to try to get better.
And that center they drafted I don't think he's going to be ready anytime soon. They still got to work on him to clean up quite a few of his techniques and get him bulked up a little bit. So I don't think that center they drafted is going to be ready anytime this year.
Let's run it back, boys. Let's see what happens. Damn, I'm worried.
But yeah, you're still getting the same articles coming out over and over. It's like, is J.J. McCarthy going to be the wide receiver 3 this year? And honestly, at this moment, yes. Yes, he should be.
You said wide receiver 3. Are you sure?
Sorry. QB.
I hope that they run some of those cool plays where he catches passes. That'd be sweet. I'm kidding.
You want to see him get murdered?
Yeah. No, I want him to go over the middle and get his head taken off by linebacker.
Right. But yeah, at this moment, the Vikings should have McCarthy as the third quarterback.
Yeah, I think so.
And I also don't think that having an experienced quarterback as your backup is a bad thing, even though we saw Nick Mullins is a little too willing to try to force things to happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was scrolling through an article, I believe it was on the Vikings Wire, and they were like Vikings who might get cut before preseason. And some of the players on there were just mind-blowing. It's like Ed Ingram was on there, and Dalton Reisner was on there, and
to get replaced by who?
And Ed Oliver was on there. I'm like, what?
Josh Oliver?
Yeah, Josh Oliver, sorry.
Yeah, no, none of those guys are going anywhere. That's the thing. To get replaced by who? Are they going to go spend money and then bring a guy in who hasn't been there yet? Like,
yeah.
Now, I'd kind of understand Oliver if it was like a contract thing to try to save money, but I don't think we're at the point in the season, not the offseason now, where Minnesota's looking to save cap space. I don't think that's where we're at.
Because TJ Hawkinson's not fully healthy and back, like ready to go, he is tight end number 1 now. The fact that they would write that's the most mind-boggling.
Yeah, going to that article, and it was an article where there was absolutely no text. They just had pictures of the player with the name underneath. I'm like, what is this?
It's lazy journalism is what it is. The thing that I love the
Explain why
most,
you think this player might not be with the team.
It's lazy. My favorite thing about Twitter and journalism, lazy pieces of shit. I hate it so much. That's what I hope dies the most in this world. I wish that people would stop being fucking lazy.
And both Nick Mullins and Jaron Hall were on the list.
You're going to keep a minimum of 2, but I would think maybe 3 quarterbacks. You're not keeping 4, obviously, but that's obvious answers. Oh, one of these guys because we drafted one and this is the starter. No shit.
Yeah, I do believe Hall is going to get cut and end up on the practice squad. I think that's going to be what they're going to try to do. I don't think Mullins will clear.
Adam. You're making my blood pressure rise before bedtime.
You know, it's hard to keep up on what other Vikings blogs and writers are doing. And you're looking at some of this and you're like, this is what people want? This is what's showing up on Google instead of the articles that I am thinking about and writing about after taking some time to research and look at things. This is what is popular? This is what people want to click through?
It's weird. because I want there to be a diversity in the things that we look at. The difference of opinion is a great thing about
Right.
freedom of speech and conversation, but God, we are just in such a bullshit time of got to do everything fast, and by doing everything fast, that means we produce everything fast, which means we don't put time into and effort into like curating something that's worth looking at. That's the irritating part. Because what you just said, it makes. Tell me how it makes sense. Because when we think about Josh Oliver, it's like, well, he could be cut. How? Johnny Munt is going to start the season as tight end 1.
Yeah.
He just went from 3 to 1 like that because you said so. Cool.
Like
Great.
that's why I would love to have an explanation there to hear why these thoughts are there. Are these names there for clickbait? It's like the current ones
pretty
going
much.
around. Is Brian O'Neill a trade candidate for the Vikings? What? Is he?
Yeah, because that's what makes me think of winning football games is David Quessenberry starting for the Vikings.
It's like, are the Vikings going to trade two mid-round picks for a cornerback? It's like, maybe. I don't know. Let them see if they're going to do it.
Do we have 2 mid-round picks left?
No, we have 3 picks next year.
Yeah. I mean, if you're making any case for Nick Mullins, you're potentially going, we need draft picks, even if it's a 5th or a 6th rounder. Is anyone willing to trade for him? And are you willing to gamble?
And then another Vikings blog was like, what? Or Vikings may try to trade Lewis Cine. What? Are there teams out there like banging down the door? Give me Lewis Cine.
Yeah, I mean, that Lewis Cine, like, no. If you're interested in him, you take your shot on a waiver wire claim. You'll probably
What are you going to get on a trade of a 6th rounder? Like swap 6? Is that what you're going for?
Nobody is trading for Lewis Cine. Nobody.
No, not happening.
No.
Yeah, I'm angry now. Why are people saying?
Yeah, just go through some of the Vikings bloggers right now and look at some of these sites.
No, I'm not going to do that,
These articles are
Adam.
just wild right now.
No.
I know it's a slow time of the year and things got to talk about something and get conversation going somehow, but these conversations I don't want to be a part of.
It's testing by walking away from commenting on everything and just being rage-filled, because it's not even to be like, oh, I'm smarter than you. It's like, here's the common sense that you clearly left. Please absorb this and be better. That's what I want to say every time. But I try to get away from doing that. But hearing that makes me want to go full, just like, oh, stop being a donut, you fucking donut. Oh, man, we got to get out of here. I want to bring up one more thing and we'll go. The free agency tracker, and like I said, this is not to be in bad taste, but we brought it up recently for a different position, but corners that are still out there. I think there's a lot of drama with Xavier Howard right now, and he's got some stuff that we don't want to bring up. Khyree Jackson, Stephon Gilmore, J.C. Jackson, and Keon Crossan was another name that I like. Chandon Sullivan's out there if you want another reunion with him. But there are still some
probably not.
Well, Patrick Peterson's on the list too, and I'm like, I'm good without him this time. Stephon Gilmore's probably the
I
best
did
thing.
see on Instagram an honest to God Vikings fan who was like, we need to bring back Patrick Peterson.
Yeah, I kind of knew that you wouldn't want the Patrick Peterson stuff back, which is fine. He was great. The fact that he looked decent enough in that year where the defense was just like bend, don't break is odd. I thought it would be really cool maybe 4 years prior to this if we had that age Patrick Peterson with Brian Flores. That would be cool, but I think it's a little past for that. But I do like Stephon Gilmore is out there. I do like Khyree Jackson. Those are some names maybe the Vikings could take a look at. They do have some money. Because at the end of the day,
blogs are running this right now too is the Vikings trying to trade for Marshawn Lattimore.
Yeah, I did see that. Didn't know the truth behind that.
I don't know if that's dreams or wishful thinking or what.
Well, like I said, not to be in bad taste because we are dedicating the show to Khyree Jackson. That is a corner that's not on the roster anymore, and at some point you've got to think they're probably going to try to fill that unless they're just absolutely content. But that is potentially a roster spot. dare say that was a guaranteed roster spot that's not there anymore. So who's going to take that? And I would hope that they would try to beef up the corner room because I'm just, Byron Murphy and Shaquille Griffin, that's fine.
And I like Caleb Evans.
I like him.
I think he's got some skill, some potential. But yeah, when you get down to like Andrew Booth and some of those other guys, you got the young corners, it gets a little questionable.
I don't think Andrew Booth makes the roster.
There it is. I can't wait, man. I don't know the specific dates. I know some of the teams' rookies show up next week, a week from right now on July 17th. So, and then their veterans come in, I think, on the 21st. So we're like a week away from most of the league getting their rookies in. So we're right around the corner from training camp. And it's always fun when we do on the show. So please keep tuning in. We're going to predict who's going to make the roster and who isn't. And I always love listening to these guys because I'm the worst of the three at it, but I do enjoy this because Kyle Wessels is coming out and be like, he's not making the team.
There's always a big surprise transaction that kind of knocks me on the floor.
Yep.
I remember one of the biggest ones that really got me was when Minnesota released Brian Robinson. I did not see that one coming.
I remember that.
Yeah, that one made me sad. I liked Brian Robinson. As a matter of fact, I still have Brian Robinson on my Xbox as one of my friends.
Oh, that's cool. Oh, yeah. He's a lot of fun. Another cool, unique celebration. Booth and Scene are gone.
Yeah.
There we go.
Oh,
I agree,
shit.
Jonathan.
Jonathan cleaning the house over here.
That sucks if it's true because, man, that was short-lived, and those are utter failures of draft picks. But, I mean, we've seen –
But you can't keep holding on to them if nothing's going to happen.
No, you can't. That's the thing. You can't. Like, how many years are you going to be like, oh, well, they'll figure it out this time? It's like, yeah, that's a roster spot.
You could maybe talk yourself into another year at Andrew Booth Jr., but I don't know how in good faith you can keep Lewis Seen on this roster when he does not contribute anywhere at all.
It comes down to the point where you got to pick between Lewis Seen and oh my goodness, I just had his name and I forgot it. But there was just the fourth safety. I mean, it's going to be a tough call because you want to keep the guy with the big potential. But when you got the young guy on the upward trajectory, I mean, like, it's not going to be Jay Ward. That's not who I was thinking of, but he might be the guy that might keep Lewis Seen off the roster.
Let's look. I'm going to get this name for you because I want to know too. The Vikings depth chart at safety: Cam Bynum, Theo Jackson.
Theo Jackson was the guy I was thinking of.
So you have Harrison Smith and Cam Bynum, Josh Metellus, Theo Jackson, Jay Ward, Lewis Seen. Lewis Seen is third on that safety list.
On the which one are you looking at? Are you looking at Our Lads?
I'm looking at Vikings.com and
on Our Lads, Lewis Seen is safety number 5.
No, that's what I'm saying here because you have your free and your strong safety. If you're asking me, I mean, he didn't have any playing time, so he's 6th.
Yeah, if you guys ever want to look at current depth charts, Our Lads is fantastic. They have everything up to date. All the rookies their names are in a different color, and they got everything sort of lined up. The only thing on here that I might disagree with is I think at the moment, Blake Brandel, I believe he is penciled in as the starting left guard, not Dalton Reisner. Otherwise, I think this is pretty much right on.
Oh, they have Reisner as the starter on mine.
Right. Yeah, Brandel should be there.
Interesting. Yeah, they only have 5 safeties. You're right, and he is last. That's where I had him from the Vikings website. It was like, hey, they have 6 listed. Yeah, he would be 6. So
I know Jay Ward is a hybrid corner safety, and I still see him being there as maybe a nickel. If they move Jay Ward down to nickel, or even like think of him as being a player that can contribute at corner as well, he's going to be the wild card in whether or not Lewis Seen makes this team.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I don't think he's going to make it. Here we go. When you were talking running back, I want to bring up Harvin was before his time. Percy Harvin was before his time, but the cool thing about Percy Harvin is he got to shine in a Super Bowl, and he got a Super Bowl ring. So good for him.
It's crazy to think like guys like Percy Harvin, Josh Gordon, the guys that got in trouble a lot for marijuana, today that wouldn't even be an issue.
Yeah.
Josh Gordon, the freaking story that never happened, man. Goodness.
That guy, he was a freak of nature, but
and let's be honest. Let's bring up the elephant in the room. You'll keep women, domestic abusers, and their women beaters in the league, but you won't because a guy smokes pot.
And the other elephant in the room, you have the opportunity to earn millions of dollars in the NFL. You just can't not smoke weed for a couple months out of the year.
I get that, but I can't in good faith. That's just like when we're talking about, disciplining people and having, consequences for your actions in law or whatever. I shouldn't have the same punishment for jaywalking as if
I know.
do whatever. I can't believe the NFL was so far behind on that because, and at the time they're literally letting guys sweeping stuff under the rug for guys that are abusing women. It's like, what's your priorities here, man? It's really weird, but
pretty wild.
That's a thing we live through.
That's all I've got for now. You guys got anything else you want to talk about?
No, that was it.
I'd
be
like
back
to talk
next
about
week.
Josh Freeman.
Let's relive that.
Yeah.
Oh man, no, nothing. You guys join us next week. We'll go through all of our plugs here in a second, but yeah, training camp is right around the corner, so get ready, get excited. Everything's going to be rolling here soon. There will be lots of stuff you can talk about from practices that do matter, but not really, and then we can overanalyze and say how JJ McCarthy's a bust and Sam Darnold's going to win MVP. I did see that too. Let's talk about that. Somebody put $250 down for Sam Darnold to win MVP, and if it catches out, he will win $75,000. So don't call it an underdog story just yet, but it could happen.
It's like Kevin Mullen says, if anyone offers you 1,001 odds on anything, take it.
Yeah. Kind of wild.
But yeah, I do want to thank everyone for joining us here in chat, and you can check out my work over on the Viking Age. I typically write on weekends, so you can usually see my work on Sunday or Monday morning. But there's always great content there from several of our writers, so I highly recommend checking it out often. Bookmark it if you can. Check it out. I'd appreciate it. You can also check me out on socials at MNVikingZombie. I'm pretty much on any social network. I don't think there's one I'm not on, is there?
I don't think so.
Mastodon. Are you on that one?
I don't know if that's a thing. Oh, I'm not on Turning Point USA or whatever that is. I'm not on that one.
Yeah, I don't have that.
Yeah, otherwise hop on in to whatever social and chat with me. I'd appreciate that.
Adam Carlson and I just did a movie review the other day on his YouTube channel. You should go check that out.
When Evil Lurks.
Wes, you got to watch that movie and tell us your thoughts. I know we mentioned it in the chat, but it's something else.
Okay.
In a good way.
I love that our conversation about that movie made you think about it even more, Smith. I love that.
Yeah, it's not one of those like you're gonna watch it and be mad because we wasted your time. It'll make you think. But speaking of Kyle West, you can stalk him here.
Over on Blue Sky at Vaguely Square is my social media of choice. You can give me a follow. I am also over on Instagram at Kyle West Photos. I post some of my photography work, so those are my two platforms. Give me a follow and help spread the word on some of my photography work and stuff too.
Absolutely. Always hyping these guys up. Kyle West's photography, any of Adam's articles or social media channels to help those grow. Let's do it. I am on Instagram and Twitter and TikTok at NCDogDude if you would like to give me a follow. Not a lot going on there, but I will possibly maybe add you. And Adam said last week, I probably won't answer your TikTok message. Sorry. I'm sorry. That's it.
Well, I want to thank again everyone who joined us, and I sent these monthly stats over to the boys from YouTube, and we had a pretty solid month over on YouTube. So thanks again for everyone who watches us there. We are also streaming live over on Facebook and my Twitter channel, so plenty of places to watch us if you want to. We're also on whatever podcast platform you have. You can check us out later. I usually try to upload it the next day after we go live. So I appreciate it if you check that out. In the meantime, stay classy, Minnesota.